Get ready for the show, it's about to begin. Pro fan talk when we dive right in. Sports talk, hot takes, ain't nothing we lack. We the real fans, nothing holding us back. Mic check, 1, 2, y'all know the drill. We bringing the energy, we keep it real. From touchdowns on liquid air on the slam dunks on the court. Every sport, every game, we holding down the fort. We breaking down the plays, dissecting the stats. Pro fan talk, we keeping it fat. Debating with passion, no filter, no doubt. We the voice of the fans, we scream and we shout.
And what's happening? We are back again. Welcome to the Pro Fan Talk, where we will be talking about the WNBA officially for probably the last time for a minute. Not the last time, because there's going to be a lot. Every coaches are getting fired. Christy Sides is on the hot seat, so there's still a lot of stuff going on. The Bolt got fired from the Mystics, I believe. So it's a lot of news going around, but I wanted to talk about this subject. I was going to produce this video about it, but I was like, you know what? This is something that we should talk about. You know what I'm saying? We need to have an adult conversation about what we just saw in WNBA Finals. That's what I'm saying. Let's have a nice conversation. Now, the one thing that I did, and I never thought about doing this before, but I just did it. I'm trying to get my notes together, so bear with me for a minute. I went back and watched the game. I watched the replay of the game, but I watched the above the rim. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's a different camera angle. They got the cameras above the rim, I guess, on top of the shot clock or whatever it is. And it's another way to watch the game. I got Xfinity, so when I went to rewatch the game, I'm getting the above the rim feed. Now, the good thing about that is you got a great view of the court, but there's no broadcast audio. That's the thing. No broadcast audio. So you hear the crowd, you can still hear what's going on the court, everything like that. But you just don't hear the audio from the broadcast booth. So if it's ESPN, if it was Rebecca Lobo and Ryan Rucco or whoever it is, you don't hear any of that. And I came away with something because of that. It's amazing. It's amazing how biased you can become watching the broadcast. Never thought about that before. But I'm watching the game, and I watched like the first 20 minutes of it, from like the first period into the second. And then I just went ahead and fast forwarded to the fourth quarter and overtime. And so I'm watching it, and I'm realizing I'm not having any type of reaction because I know what's coming. I watched the game live, but I'm watching it and I'm getting a different feel for it, because what I'm thinking is like, oh man, you missed that call. Should have got that. You missed that shot, blah, blah. Like, you know how you thinking when you're in the midst of watching something live. And I never really thought about the type of effect the play-by-play has on your opinion, on your perspective, any of that. So I found myself watching through the fourth quarter. I get to that play with Breanna Stewart, and then going into overtime and watching how that played out. And I didn't have any type of audible, visceral reaction. Even the play with Breanna Stewart at the end of regulation, when she ties it up on the free throw line. I looked at that play. I had to run that back about 6 or 7 times. And here's what I came away with. First of all, let's get the elephant out of the room. Pun intended. If you were a New York Liberty fan. That was not a foul on Breanna Stewart. However, I understand. Because how many games have we watched? Whether you are participating, whether your kid was in it, college, pros, your squad, not your squad, whatever. How many times have you watched games and the star players get the calls? To me, going back and looking at it, the controversy was how the hell did they miss that travel by Breanna Stewart? That girl must have taken 4 or 5 steps. But I'm thinking the reason why they let that slide was because she didn't have control of the ball yet. Maybe. That's my guess. But it looked like a travel to me. That was the missed call, I thought. Not the foul. I understand the foul. I understand that. She the player, she got the ball. It looked like a foul. But when you watch it at a different angle, it wasn't. But again, I understand. Because how many times are you watching in the NBA and even this year in the WNBA, all of these non-calls or missed calls? To me, that's status quo. Now, again, going back to watching this broadcast in the game, because I have no audio, I'm watching the fouls, seeing what happened. Yep, that was a foul. They could have let that go. Jonquel Jones got called for a foul where she got a rebound and her and the girl end up fighting, and she should have got that call. But it was a offensive charge for her. It was an offensive foul on her. She's the one that got drugged to the ground, and I think she was guilty of just being the bigger body in that particular play, because I think it was her and Atlanta, the girl that hurt her leg. What's her name? Atlanta. I'm forgetting her last name. But so I'm saying that to say there were some bad calls on both sides. Minnesota benefited from some bullshit calls too. Don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. Minnesota got some calls in that game too. There were some missed calls that favored Minnesota. Absolutely. There were some fouls that should have been called that weren't. There were a couple of charges that looked like bogus calls and some weak ticky-tack calls that didn't translate on the other end. If you're going to call it for one, call it for the other. You know me, if it's going to be ticky-tack, just make it ticky-tack on both sides. If you calling everything, then call everything on both sides. And that's always been the problem with the refs from the beginning of the year. The referees have been the biggest detriment to the WNBA in its most visible year. Without a doubt. The referees were god-awful. They were horrible. So, I noticed I called this video 3 points about the WNBA Finals, but I mean, just to hit point number one, the elephant in the room, that was a bad call. They missed it, but I understand why Breanna Stewart got that call. I get it. I don't agree with it, but I get it. How many times have I been sitting there watching the WNBA and I look at them calls and it's like, come on, how you going to give them that call? And what's the first thing you say? Oh, they got the home cooking or whatever the situation is. And here's my point. We're not going to sit around here, bitch, moan, and complain about the calls you're seeing in the W when we've been used to watching that nonsense in the NBA for decades. For decades. We've been watching some vile crap come through in the WNBA. I'm not even talking about the Tim Donaghy stuff, fixing calls and the betting and all of that kind of stuff. It's kind of in the same vein, but that's on a whole nother level. So I'm leaving that to the side. We've been watching Drek in the NBA and complaining about NBA officials for decades. Now, all of a sudden, you got this new influx of fans on the WNBA, and all of a sudden, oh, we can't watch it no more because they're terrible. The NBA, the WNBA refs are bad. The game is not looking good. They keep missing shots, and everybody's got an excuse. But we've been watching the same crap in the NBA for years. People have been bitching about LeBron James for years. He flops. He gets all the calls and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm like, even with LeBron James, and I consider myself a LeBron James fan, but yes, he flops. Yes, he cries when he don't get calls. So does everybody else. What's new? Everybody else does the same exact thing. There's nothing new under the sun. You know what I mean? So it seems like people acting like they're going to stop watching the W because the final product was so bad and the finals was rigged and it was just horrible. And like, man, get out of here with that. You wasn't a fan in the first place. Because if you could bitch about that, but watch some of the crap you see in the NBA, then go ahead on back to the NBA. Because that's what you want to do anyways. You were just looking for an excuse. But you know what? I watched all 5 of them games, and I was thoroughly enjoying myself, despite the bad play in Game 5. But you mean to tell me you ain't never seen bad play in the NBA? Never? You ain't never? Like, stop playing with me, man. Stop playing with me. Anybody that doesn't want to watch the W next year because they thought the product was so bad in the finals or the game really turned them off because it was a bad call, going back to the NBA, we ain't need you anyways. You wasn't a true fan. You were just looking for a reason to badmouth it, bitch about it, and all that other kind of stuff. So go ahead on. So that was the first thing. It's definitely a different look without the broadcast because I wasn't worried about the fouls. There was nothing I saw watching the game where I was like, oh my God, that was horrible call. There's no way I'm looking at it and I'm like, yeah, there was nothing where I had to jump out of my seat. Nothing like that. So it gave me a different perspective. And like, maybe we just overreacting to all of this kind of stuff because that's how they put it across on the broadcast. And I tell you what, that gives me a much better appreciation for the broadcast team because they can elicit a lot of different emotions on that game when you're watching it in real time. And you only understand that when you watch a game and it's not there. I challenge anybody, find the above the rim version of the game and watch it. Or just watch a replay of the game, leave it on while you're doing something, but mute it so you don't get all of the stuff you get from the broadcast. And just, it's amazing, at least it was for me, how different the game felt. It was still a sloppy game. Both teams were sloppy. Both teams were sloppy. That's why I don't give, a lot of the stuff that Cheryl Reed was talking about. I get it, and I understand. I'm not going to discredit her. That's what she thought after her team lost. But a game before, Sandy Brondello said the same shit. Sandy Brondello said the same exact thing. Keep it fair. If it's ticky-tack on one end, it should be. She was cursing at the press conference too. That's how upset she was. So it works on both sides of the fence. Those 2 games that Minnesota won in Minnesota, and the one in Minnesota and the one in New York, they got some favorable calls. You know they did. So you always get those balances. If it's going to go for one, it's going to go for the other. And that's the way the game goes. That's the way it goes. So everybody was bitching, moaning, and mad. And at the end of the day, it's not gonna matter because you can go back and look through history, through the archives of the NBA, even the WNBA, and don't act like this has not happened before. You can talk to anybody and they'll say if they team lost, unless they got swept, we should have did this or we got bad calls. Everybody's got an excuse. Everybody's got an excuse. But I tell you what, when you watch that game and when I rewatch that game, I'm looking at the game like, man, I don't understand how Minnesota is this close. Because New York was playing like hot garbage and Minnesota still couldn't take over the game. Sabrina Ionescu played so badly that people were getting mad because she was celebrating. That's how bad Sabrina was playing. She was like 1 for 19 or something goofy like that in the final game. That's one of your best players. But again, when I'm watching the copy and there's no broadcast, all I'm seeing is what's going on the court. There's no way I would have thought she had such a bad game because she was still involved. She was still getting assists, getting steals, hustle rebounds, things like that. She just had a problem shooting the ball. I don't know why she wasn't attacking the rim in game 5. That's what I don't understand from her. If you can't make a jump shot, attack the rim. But everybody was missing shots. Fee Collier was missing shots in the paint. Jonquel Jones was missing shots in the paint. Everybody was missing shots. It was a sloppy game. So it's like a minute, a moment of reflection, how everything went down. And I guess what? I even with the call, and even me admitting, like, I didn't think that was a foul call on Brianna at the end. But even with that, I don't feel bad for Minnesota. Not for a minute. Not for a minute. Because one of the number one rules when you play in sports is you never want to leave a game close enough to where the refs have to decide it for you. Minnesota had plenty of opportunities and plenty of open shots that didn't fall to take over that game and win it. And they didn't. Same thing for New York. New York just happened to make better shots or make their shots towards the end of the game. Overtime score was like 7-2. So both teams just played sloppy. And Cheryl Reeves cussing and fussing, I don't expect anything different. You just lost the finals and you thought it was a bad call. Talk your talk. Ain't going to change nothing. They're not going to go back and review it. So talk your talk. Get it off your chest. Can't hurt a thing. I'm sure Sandy Brondello would have been doing the same exact thing had the outcome been different. So I don't get mad at Cheryl Reeve for getting pissed off and saying what she did at her presser. I wouldn't think that she would do anything different. I just know that a couple games before, when she benefited from those same type of calls, obviously you're not gonna have no rebuttal for that. So it goes both ways. Everybody get a turn, man. It doesn't matter what sport you playing. NFL, NBA, WNBA, Major League Baseball, hockey, doesn't matter. Soccer. Everybody gets a turn. Every team is going to go through some shit. And it's not going to be fair. It's not going to be fair. And again, I hate when people act like what they saw from the WNBA was just so god-awful and so terrible. When you've been watching that trashy-ass NBA for decades. And you ain't got a problem with that. And you talking about controversy with refs and bad calls. NBA is the poster child for that. Does anybody remember the 2006 NBA Finals with Dwayne Wade? What happened with him? I forgot about that. I had to go back and look that one up. I forgot how bad that was. when they played the Mavericks. That was 06, right? Yeah. 2006 NBA Finals. Game 5, Dwayne Wade shoots 25 free throws. 15 of them was in the fourth quarter. One player. The Mavericks as a team only shot 25. The Heat ended up shooting 49 free throws for the game. Then you go to game 6. He shoots another 21 free throws. The Mavericks as a team only have 23. So people were losing their mind back then. And you still had instant replay and all that kind of stuff. You saw it on television. That's what made it even worse. They didn't have I don't think at that time they was doing all of the replay officials, and they didn't have all of that stuff. I don't think that was in the league yet. So we would just watch it on TV and that was water cooler talk for the next day. You see how bad that call was? But you know what? You had to live with it. Because wasn't nothing you can do. Now, what do you see in the WNBA now? What do you see? After every call, somebody's doing that. Courtney Williams, Jonquel Jones. Everybody's doing the same thing. Run it back. Screw the consequences if you get it wrong. Forget that. Losing a timeout and everything that comes with that. They just not review it, run it back, review it. It's the universal signal. And everybody is just so convinced. But sometimes you get away with it, sometimes you don't. And in this case, New York Liberty, they got away with it. Bad play and all. They got away with it. Is it going to dissuade me from watching WNBA going into next year? Hell no. I'm going to be all up in the women's NCAA. I'm probably not even going to watch the men anymore because I watched it last year and I enjoyed it. And I want to see this new crop of juniors and seniors that's going to come out this year from the NCAA. And I want to see who's going to be, hopefully, the WNBA will learn from a lot of the mistakes that they made, and it'll be better next year. They're going to do the new CBA deal. Who thought that they were not going to redo that CBA deal? You really thought they was going to go all the way to 2027? You think they was going to really, the WNBA Players Association should have been fired if they let the current CBA go until 2027, when it was signed until 2027. But nobody expected Caitlin Clark to do what she did and bring in the numbers that she brought in. Nobody was expecting a $2.2 billion media rights deal. Nobody was expecting that. So with all of that influx of new money coming in, the WNBA Players Association would be stupid to keep that existing deal. If they would have kept that deal, all of them should have been fired. If you were a player rep and you accepted that deal, or you didn't try to opt out and get a new deal done, all of you should have been replaced. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. And I see some people, now they're creating content. All the WNBA is getting greedy. They're stupid for opting out of their deal. I'm like, are y'all paying attention? Do y'all see what's going on? The owners knew that this was going to happen. They understand what's going on. When you get in a collectively bargaining situation, both sides are at the table. Yes, the players want to make more money, but ultimately the owners are going to make more money too. Everybody's about to eat. Everybody's about to eat. And the funny thing is, everybody's talking about the WNBA Finals. Whether you loved it because you were from New York, whether you hated it because you're from Minnesota, whether you hated it because it was a bad call, whatever the situation is, even now, a couple of days later, you still talking about it. That's a win for the W. We still making content about it. And we are in a situation now, the landscape exists now where us content creators, We are the rats on the wheel. We keep it moving. We keep everything moving. Terrestrial TV and cable, they in second place now. Content creation, YouTube, Twitter, Threads, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. That's where the information gets out first, and that's where the conversations are being had. Before there used to be a time where as soon as you got up in the morning, you turn on Sports Center so you can see the highlights. Now, when you wake up in the morning, you go downstairs, get in the bathroom, sit on the toilet with your phone in your hands, and see what happened last night. Then you go on, then you might watch your favorite show because you know they're going to talk about it because they already tweeted about what they're going to talk about. The social media is the leader in the news cycles, not television anymore. So, and I'm saying all that to say the content creators, the people that's spending all of this content and information and news out there, we just as good as the people on TV because we can get information just as fast as they can. And you know that our voice is not controlled. We can say what we want to say. Well, did we like something? Don't like something? If we thought it was bullshit, if the refs was cheating, we can say all of that. We ain't getting fined. None of that type of stuff. So there's more people watching us because they want to hear what's real. So if you like the WNBA, whether you didn't like it, whatever, it's still growing. And now that they are mainstream sport, it's going to continue to grow. Angel Reese done signed with, she got cash out machines around Chicago. They already, people are making TikTok videos and putting it on Facebook, walking around Chicago looking for these green machines. And they're finding them. And what they do, they videotape their experience with it. And it's just like a little lottery game. You punch in your code or you do whatever you got to do to identify yourself. And then you might win a prize, you might not. You either win a prize or it's thank you for playing. So now you got everybody in Chicago walking around looking for these green cash out machines. Generating interest. Whoever put that video out, somebody was watching. They had a couple thousand viewers. So the YouTube game and the social media game is driving the content. And it's only going to get bigger and better. What's the conversation now? What's going to happen with what was it? Let me find it. The Unrivaled is trying to put a deal together for Caitlin Clark. I don't know if that's true or not, but trying to get a Lionel Messi type deal for Caitlin Clark. And I'm like, I hope Caitlin Clark stays out of the Unrivaled and just goes and just does her normal off-season workout and keeps it moving. That's it. Let me try to find another page. Your post awful Sports Nation. Here we go. So yeah. So I don't know if that's gonna happen. And now you got people on the other side talking about they might possibly boycott. I got to research into this more, but I've seen a couple of posts about it where some people are saying they're not going to watch Unrivaled if Caitlin Clark is in it because they don't like their fans. And I'm like, why are y'all back on these fans thing again? That makes absolutely no sense with the fans. Everybody keeps talking about the fans and they don't like the way Caitlin Clark's fans are. And I'm like, you don't know that those are Caitlin Clark fans? Anybody can say anything and put anybody's name on it. And if you are 35 years old or younger, you should know how social media works. And you know you can't help that. And I said this before, there are plenty of other sports business entities that are larger with more resources that have been around a lot longer than the WNBA, and they haven't even figured out how to solve that riddle. So what makes the WNBA think that they can do it? Or what makes any other entity think that they can do it and just ignore a big contingency of fans just because they don't like them? It can't be done. It cannot be done. But people, all of a sudden, these WNBA fans, and it's a certain section of them that had that attitude, like we've been here and we don't like the way these new fans are acting. And it's like you have no control over that. So you better get used to it, because the fans that people don't like are the same fans that's spending money. Owners don't give a damn. They can talk toxic fans all you want. Because whether you a toxic fan, whether you a real fan, whether you a fair weather fan, whether you a bandwagon fan, doesn't matter. You still watching, you still clicking, and you still spending money. That's all they care about. So all of these people talking about we don't want their fans, and whoever that girl was or whatever that website was that was talking about we need a break from Caitlin Clark fans. Not if Caitlin Clark fans pay money. I don't understand that. That was one of my biggest issues. What's up, Daniel Barry? That was one of my biggest issues with some of these people all of a sudden talking all this stuff about the trolls and toxic fandom online and stuff like that. And Stephanie White said it best. She was like, the best thing you can do is not be on social media. You know, that's a choice. That is not a necessity. That's a choice. You don't have to be on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. You ain't got to be on none of that. But if you choose to, you get what you get. And there's nothing you can do about it. So when I see somebody like Alyssa Thomas coming out and saying there's no place for some of the things, and I'm like, the question of if it is right or wrong is never up for debate. It's 100% wrong. The problem is them thinking that they can just control it. That's the problem. You can't. Unless somebody figures out a way where you can reverse engineer where a tweet or an email from a burner account, unless you can figure out a way to reverse engineer that and figure out where it's coming from, there is literally nothing you can do but ignore it. That's what they don't want to do. They own coach said as much. Turn off social media. Just turn it off. But here's the one thing that people don't want to get with in this day and age. They don't want to admit that they're addicted to it. They don't want to admit it. Because if you turn it off, you act like you can't do anything. And this, you know, every generation behind us Gen Xers, y'all can't handle shit. I grew up without a cell phone, so if I leave my cell phone at home, I'm gonna be okay. Other people will lose their shit. Haven't checked social media all day, and people really lose it. But they don't want to leave it alone. They think they're just going to give the fans out in the universe a stern talking to, and it's going to change everything, and it's not. And I think a lot of the players in the WNBA look really silly that they think that is going to happen. Do you think, like, and this is where I'm like, you know, slow down and understand the company you're keeping now. And I keep saying this, with the WNBA being mainstream now, you got to take the good with the bad. Wasn't nobody paying attention to you. Now everybody's paying attention to you. And with that, you get a lot of knuckleheads, you get a lot of trolls, you get a lot of toxic fans. That's par for the course. You think LeBron James ain't never got death threats? You think KD ain't never got death threats? Ja Morant got death threats. Everybody gets death threats. I had to do some homework. I saw people that was getting death threats because they missed a shot and a team didn't lose. You talking about somebody that's not even a starter, and the family's getting death threats and prank calls at the hotels and all kind of nonsense. It's been happening for decades. Decades. And all of a sudden, the WNBA, the players in the WNBA don't like how they're getting treated online. And they just want to speak out on it. And they think everybody's just going to start or just stop. And that's the funny part to me. At no point did they ever think about, you know what, let me just get off of social media. There's been a couple of players that did that. I remember Aaliyah Boston did it last year, I believe. And she said it. She put out a thing, was like, I just had to get off social media for my mental health. Duh. The greatest invention known to man is the on-off switch. Nobody uses it. Nobody wants to use it because everybody wants to have something to say. That's what it comes down to. More so than the addiction of it, there is more of an addiction to, I'm going to say what I want to say. I'm going to get this off. Even though I'm talking to somebody who I will never meet in person. I'm going to get it off anyway. I've said this before. When I played for the Eagles, I played for the Eagles 93, 94. Then I played in World League in 95, 6, and 7. Then I played in Canadian Football League in 97. The one thing I remember back when I played with Randall Cunningham and Seth Joyner and Clyde Simmons and Eric Allen and William Thomas and Wes Hopkins and Andre Waters, some of the greats. But the thing I remember, because there was no social media, so if the Philadelphia Inquirer wrote something bad about you, the only thing you could do is just not read the paper. But I do remember at that time, the beat writers and the reporters for the Inquirer or wherever they were from had to come in the locker room every week and look you face to face before they wrote anything about you. So there was some accountability on both sides when you wrote something. If a journalist wrote something and they had to come back in the locker room because they had to continue getting quotes and all of that kind of stuff for the paper, us as players had the opportunity to say, you know, why'd you write that? You had the opportunity to literally question people on what they wrote, why they wrote it. And there's some stories you can go back and look at Ray Dinger and some of the stories he's told where him and coaches, I think he tells a famous story with him and Dick Vermeil really went at it because Dick Vermeil didn't like an article that Ray Dinger wrote and they got into it. But Ray stood his ground and hashed it out and was like, listen, this is what I'm seeing. And he told the truth. So this was a case where the coach had to back down because there's one thing I know. You can always argue with the truth because it's still going to come out the truth. But I'm saying all that to say, when people used to write stuff bad about us, you got to see me. That's where that comes from. Most of these kids today don't really understand what that means. They just talking if they get into an altercation or something like that. Most people don't get it. They don't understand it. You got to come see me. What that means is for you to do your job, you got to look me face to face. You're going to stick a microphone in my face and ask me a question. And I can choose not to answer it because it's you. Because I didn't like what you wrote. But you as the player, you got a chance to address it. You got a chance to address the person that actually wrote it. What were you thinking? Why would you write something like that? Because there have been some times in the past too where somebody just made up some shit and they got called on the carpet for it. You had some accountability back then. You don't have accountability anymore. Zero accountability because it's too much. There's too much money to be made when you are wrong, when you are disliked, and when you are polarizing. Everybody's trying to be polarizing now. Polarizing just means you got people on that love you, you got people that hate you, and whether they love you or hate you, they still watching. They just want to see the train wreck. Prime example of that is right now is Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith is polarizing. There's a ton of people that hate Stephen A. Smith. And there's some people that love him. But regardless of which camp you in, you're going to always tune in when he does something just to see what happened. You want to watch the train wreck. If something happens and he screws up, the people that hate him will celebrate, but they still watch. Perfect situation to be in because it's a win-win. Except now, he gets to a point where he's too smug and, But like I said, the greatest invention known to man is the on-off switch. I am lucky that I'm still pretty good at using it. If I don't like Stephen A. Smith, if I don't like Shannon Sharp, if I don't like Jason Whitlock or Michelle Beadle or Sarah Spain or anybody, I'm not saying I dislike all of those people because I do like Sarah Spain, I do like Michelle Beadle, and I do like Shannon Sharp and Stephen A. Smith on certain things. Jason Whitlock, But if I don't like them, I can turn them off. I can not watch them. I can choose to ignore it. And that's what I do. But the problem is everybody get caught up and I got to say something. I saw the thing. I was watching. I was looking at some news about, Bronny and LeBron played in the same game, which was a big moment for LeBron. His son is playing in the league. That's a huge moment. And then you got Michelle Beadle like, I thought it was ridiculous. And it's like, what did you think they was going to do? Like, what did you think they was going to do? She's always, from a long time ago, she wasn't really a big LeBron fan. But what did you think they were going to do? How many times in the past have the league nepotism and favoritism and colorism and any other ism you want to put in there? How many times has that happened? You watched it happen. You let it happen. You didn't speak on it. Now, all of a sudden, because Bronny James and LeBron James are playing together like father and son, like Ken Griffey Jr. and Sr. did back in the day, everybody got a problem with it. Just let it happen. You can watch another team. It's not affecting you that bad, but people want to talk like it's just killing them. Oh, my God. And it's like, hey, man, you still watching? You still watching the train wreck. That's the funny part. You still watching the train wreck. So I think it's funny, man. People got to start getting off their high horse. I like doing content because I think my perspective is unique enough. Having played at the professional level and being a fan and talking and seeing things like the regular Joe Schmo does. I've been on both sides of the fence. So I know on both sides of the fence, sometimes both sides are wrong in one situation or the other. So it's fun to talk about it, but some people need to get over themselves. They are not that important. The situation is probably not that important. They just trying to make it important because they're talking about it. Just keep it moving. If you don't like it, skip it. But the one thing that social media has done is it has made it in vogue to tell everybody what you don't like, not promote what you do like or promote the positive, because everybody wants to promote the negative because the negative brings more clicks, unfortunately. So it's funny how that works. It's funny how that works. But back to the original point with Caitlin Clark. She said she's gonna take the summer off. Apparently, I saw an article today that she's already in the gym training and stuff like that. And I'm very interested to see how she comes back next year because I think She's finally gonna have a full summer of rest. Um, she's gonna be good next year. Angel Reese, on the other hand, I don't know what's gonna happen with her. I I said this the other day. I think I said it on Twitter. I will be very surprised if Angel Reese is in the W in 4 years. I'll be very surprised because I think she's got herself set up where she is making so much money off the court that the W is not her priority at all. Not her priority at all. And you're not going to just be able to show up with a month to go, try to get yourself in shape. And it's not going to work that way. And if it does work that way, then that's an indictment on the league. So I just think she's going to have too many outside opportunities, and she's going to get something that you can't pass up. She's already making a ton of money to the point where the WNBA salary is just a pay cut, just something for her to bitch about. And she got to be careful because she's going to end up talking herself into trouble. And it's like, listen, everybody don't want to hear that you ain't got enough to pay for your $8,000 a month apartment. You got to be careful with that when you're talking about a league that's been underfunded and players are being underpaid, and you coming in with your NIL money and your Met Gala dresses and you flexing on everybody. They're not going to take too kindly for that. What's up, Edgar? You know what? I don't even know. I didn't look at anything about the refs, Edgar. Good question. I have no idea, though. I have no idea. I don't know if you were listening to me earlier when I first started. I rewatched the game, but it didn't have a broadcast. And I was talking about how different it felt watching that game because those same calls didn't have the impact, because when you see it, it's not a big a deal like they made it with the broadcast and on television and replaying something 5 and 6 times. The only thing I went back is I watched that play with Breanna Stewart at the end. She didn't get fouled. The missed call was the travel that they missed, not the foul. Because even though she didn't get fouled, I understand why they called it. So at least that I can wrap my head around. What I can't wrap my head around is how a professional referee can miss a travel when Breanna Stewart took 5 damn steps. That was the call that they missed, not the foul. I see star players get ghost fouls every game I watched. That's why it was no big deal to me. It was no big deal. Cheryl Reeve can bitch to the cows come home. Not going to change the outcome of the game. So I don't know if they got any quotes from the refs or anything like that. I have no idea. I'm just going by what, I felt like, because this will probably be the last big WNBA conversation I have. Everything else is just going to be news and coaches and stuff like that. So I was like, you know what? Let's have an adult conversation. But I'm excited, man. I'm excited for this NCAA season to get started. I still want to see what happens with Ashlyn Watkins down in South Carolina. Is Dawn Staley going to let her back on the team after she got arrested? Because it sounds like, based on the last report I read, it sounds like the girlfriend was making shit up. That's what it sounds like. What's up, Kev? Yo, Kev, I ain't get started until 10, man. I made a decision to start at 10 p.m. just to see what kind of response I get. So sometimes I think that everybody's on the East Coast with me, and that's not the case. So I'm trying to play around with the times, because when I first started doing this, I was going at 7 p.m. Then I moved to 8. Then I moved to 9. So today I was like, let me see what 10 o'clock is going to do. So right now we at 10 to 11. And I've been peaking around like 10 or 11 viewers on here. So it's all good. I'm trying to find a good formula, man. You a night owl? I got you. Listen, Kev, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get to a point. If I get to a point where I can get like 60, 70 consistently on a stream, I want to start having like call-ins. Literally, where put the StreamYard link in there, and if you got a camera or you on the phone, you can come in and you can call in live, and we can talk. You just don't have to listen to me. But I want to get it to a place where I at least want to have some people on the stream where I could put it out, and if you want to talk, jump on and talk. You don't have to be on camera. You can mute the camera, and I can still hear you. So I'm working on that. I think I'm gonna do a test run this Friday, and I'm gonna try to see if I can get some of my homies from Cincinnati on, because the Eagles are about to play the Bengals. So, but yeah, I've been trying to think about doing that. Trying to get that format, because I like to talk with people. I don't like to talk at people. This is a conversation, man. I like it when the chat is hot. Keeps things going, and it doesn't get stale. So that's where I'm working on. Kev, are you on the East Coast? Where are you at? Where's your location? Edgar, where's your location? Because that's one of the things I got to start figuring out. I got to look at my analytics. I got to look at where everybody's coming from. Because if it makes sense for me to start later, like 10:30, 11 o'clock, I'll do it. Okay, so you on the East Coast. Okay. Yeah. So I'm just trying to solve those riddles, man, because I'm trying to take the next step. I've been working on my graphics, transitions, all that kind of stuff, man. So I don't know Seth Talk Sports. I don't know who that is, Edgar. I have to check it out. I'll jump on with anybody, man. I'll jump on with anybody. Matter of fact, I was on it was called Eagles Uncut. That was on Monday night. And this dude had asked me like 3 weeks ago. He's based in Florida. He asked me 3 weeks ago to be on his podcast. But the hurricane hit. So they were, evacuating Florida, so he couldn't do it. Then he called me back up and was like, let's do it Monday. And I was like, sure thing, man. So I'll talk with anybody, dude. So, and listen, Kev, it's not necessarily podcasters. These are just some of my homies that I still interact with, guys I went to high school with. So I'm gonna try to get like matter of fact, damn, I'm glad you said that. I got a connection that I'm gonna have to look that up. Solomon Wilcots. Solomon Wilcots used to play for the Bengals. He still lives in Cincinnati. He was one of the broadcasters. I think he was on CBS for a long time. Need to try to get him on. But yeah, it doesn't have to be podcasters. You can be just a regular listener or somebody that supports the channel and just jump on and get your face online or something, man. So whatever I got to do to build the audience, I'm still working. My goal, I got 8 days. I got 8 days to get to 5,000. That's my goal right now. I am at, hold on for a second. Let me see where I am. I haven't checked in a while. All right, here we go. That's my live count right now. 4,673. My goal is to get to 5,000 by the end of the month. So I'm hustling. So I got to get like 333, 323, 327. So I got to get 327 followers in like 8 days. So I'm working on that. But when I get to 5,000, I'm gonna have an Eagles hat giveaway. I don't know if you guys were on when I said that before. I got a classic. I'm gonna show you. I got a classic Eagles cap that I'm giving away. This is the design for the 1992 Pro Bowl. Classic Eagles hat. Old school logo. It's funny how the camera will only pick up certain things, but it's got the old school Pro Bowl logo on it. Cool little hat. So that's my giveaway when I get to 5,000. Is an NFC East opponent. Unfortunately, not playing my Commanders till November. Yeah, listen, man, it don't matter. It doesn't matter. I'll talk because it's the one thing, man. Especially with guys that played in the league. I got friends that have played for almost every team. I got friends that one of my best friends, William Thomas, he played for Oakland. So you got somebody with the Raiders. I've had experience. One of the camps I went to when I was still playing was the Carolina Panthers. And one of my friends, Luther Broughton, used to play for Carolina. I was in Camp Coughlin when Tom Coughlin was with the Jacksonville Jaguars and that crazy mess. So it's like 6 degrees of separation, man. So it doesn't really matter what team. It doesn't have to be an NFC team. A very good friend of mine that I went to college with, he played here with the Eagles and he played for Kansas City, is Jason Dunn. So Jason Dunn can talk about the Eagles and he can talk about the Kansas City. I was trying to get him on this week, but he's got some things going on, so we just keep missing each other. I definitely wanted to talk to him this week because of the big signing they just had, Andre D. Hop. So that'd have been a perfect time, but I'm saying all that to say we got friends in every city, so it don't have to be just NFC stuff. I'll talk about anything, man. Football is football, so it's all good. It's all good. Because here's a funny thing though. I had my channel audited today, which means one of these guys that's got 8 bajillion followers looked at my channel and was offering feedback. And one of the things they said was that I might need to separate the channels. I might need to have a channel for football, have a channel for the WNBA stuff, just like separate the channels because they didn't know. It's hard. The one thing that I figured out is because I do trending sports, I do have a lot of Eagles information and NFL stuff, but I also dabble into baseball. I dabble into NBA when the Sixers are getting started. I dabble into the WNBA. So I'm checking a lot of boxes. But as to somebody that's not into sports, they looked at my channel and was like, well, what's your niche? Is it NFL? Is it WNBA? Well, where is it? So I'm thinking about maybe starting that second channel and just making a channel for hoops and WNBA stuff. So did Randall Cunningham run too much? Did RC run too much when he quarterback? I love it. But people hate it. Nah, he didn't run too much. I think here's the one thing about Randall. Watch Randall's highlights. Obviously, there's a million highlights even now on YouTube. Probably get a bajillion views. Probably some from NFL films. But look at Randall's highlights when he was with Philadelphia. Then look at his highlights when he was with Minnesota. Randall was a super smart dude. Super smart dude. I just think the system that we had at the time in Philadelphia wasn't great. So when he went to Minnesota, if it wasn't for a damn kicker missing the only field goal he missed all year, Randall probably would have won a Super Bowl. They lost the NFC Championship game because of a kicker. But I don't know if you remember, that was Randy Moss's rookie year. That was Randy Moss's rookie year. Exactly. That's my point. That's exactly my point, Kev. When he got to Minnesota, I don't want to necessarily say they showed him how to be a quarterback. He knew how to be a quarterback, but the system was different. So he stayed in the pocket. He still ran. He still got out of there like he knows how to do. He just didn't have to do it as much as he did in Philadelphia. And he was a much better quarterback. You know who else that happened to? Michael Vick. Michael Vick was what he was. Then he gets up here to Philadelphia, and he's damn near the MVP. Was he MVP that year? Can't remember. At least he was, or no, he was comeback player of the year, I think. Because that was after the dog fight and stuff. So it all depends on what system you get into, man. And Randall finally got in the right system. Look what's going on with Sam Darnold. He's basically a journeyman. He finally gets into a system with Minnesota, and he is lighting it up. And of course, now they want to trade him. So, but you understand what I'm saying? I didn't play for Buddy Ryan. I played for Rich Kotite. Buddy Ryan was gone. Buddy Ryan was gone. I was the second year of Rich Kotite. So did not get the Buddy Ryan years, but most of the guys on our defense were from Buddy Ryan. Seth Joyner, Byron Evans, William Thomas, Kenny Rose, William Frizzell, who else? Eric Allen, Andre Waters, Wes Hopkins, Clyde Simmons. The Fridge came from Chicago. He was at the end of his career, but I played with the Fridge. I played with Mark Duper. I played with James Lofton. I played with Mark Bavaro, Keith Millard from Minnesota. You know, a lot of great players came through there, man. So it's all about where you are and yeah, Kev. I used to make the joke when I would tell people I played for Kotite. I would be like, don't tell nobody. Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't good, but it was what it was. I didn't have a problem. I always tell this story. There was a day, in '93, we had a lot of injuries that year. Randall had tore his knee. Kenny Rose, our special teams captain, had broke his ankle. Seth was dinged up. Heath Sherman was dinged up. And I remember we got so banged up to the point where we had, I think Seth and a couple other defensive starters were playing on special teams. That's how banged up we were. And I remember walking into Rich Kotite's office and was like, yo, coach, let me run down on kick coverage, do something on special teams so I can give some of these vets a blow. Punt coverage, punt return, whatever. Let me get in there and do something. He didn't want to do it. So one of them things, man. Loses his shit every time you mention Kotite. But yeah, man. I can talk to anybody anywhere, man. So I'm trying to grow that aspect of the channel because we all know, just like the WNBA now, the season is over with. So what do you do when the season is over with? So trying to figure out a way to up this algorithm and get friendly with this algorithm. And I plan on taking some of that advice from those people that audited my channel because they've been doing it a lot longer. And, I'm trying to get to 5,000. They got 800,000. You know what I'm saying? So I would tend to, one thing I like to say, man, as a former player and just an athlete in general, I can be coached. So if you got something, if you know more than I do, let's talk. I am not the smartest person in the room, bro. So, but I think I am, Kev. I'm going to try to do that on Friday. I'm going to try to have live people on Friday. And so if you want to join in, let me know. I am going to cover the NBA. It's big news here with Joel Embiid, him being investigated and him being hurt right off the bat. Paul George getting hurt. So definitely, man, I go through the seasons. I do go through the seasons, but so I'm thinking about switching up and just having, maybe this will be my main channel for all Eagles talk. And maybe I'll have another channel strictly for hoops. I might mess around with it because what's the worst that can happen? It don't work, and I keep continue to put everything on this channel. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's a lot of different things, man, that can happen, and I'm up for doing them now because I've got enough momentum on this channel now where I can make some changes. If I think the changes are going to be for the best, I'll do that because I'm right here close to 5,000. When I remember when I first got my first 100, and then I first got my 1,000, and then 1,500 and 2,000, and like it's steadily growing faster, and I want to keep that momentum going because 5,000 is at the end of the month, 10,000 is at the Super Bowl. That's the long-term goal, and how I'm thinking about that is that's going to be a race to get to 10,000 by the Super Bowl. That's going to be crazy. The only way I can do it is I got to figure out a way that I can get my viewership to get bumped up and stay consistent. So that's the key. So yeah, Kev, I will definitely be doing the NBA stuff. I definitely will be covering NBA news and stuff like that. And I'm gonna sit down and try to make a plan and possibly do a second channel. I wouldn't have to do more videos because I would do the same content, except I would just turn on a different channel. That's it. Literally, that's it. So we'll see what's gonna happen. We'll see what's gonna happen. I got ideas, man. Anybody else got any feedback? Got any ideas? Hook me up. Let me know. Also, Edgar, Kev, um, are, Edgar, are you asking me or are you suggesting? I've watched Twitter a couple of times, but I've never messed around with it. But I wouldn't be opposed to going on Twitch. I would not be opposed to that at all. I always thought Twitch was just like a gaming channel, but I know everybody did everything on that. So I could check it out, man. I gotta read up on it because I wouldn't mind, just like I'm doing this broadcast, giving it out to everybody. I just started doing TikTok not long ago, and my TikTok profile is growing. I had somebody tell me about TikTok last year. I just never got into it. So finally I downloaded it and I just started using it. I don't even go on TikTok that often. So now, because I use Opus Clips, I can tell Opus Clips to send my stuff to TikTok. And I've been getting a lot of good response for it. So I'm going to keep doing that. But as far as the Twitch, I'm going to read up into that. If it's worth it, I'll definitely do it, bro. I'll definitely do it. But what I don't want to do is split my audience. That's the thing that I learned. You got to be careful when you put out a lot of content. And how did they put it? They said the guy was looking at my site and he was like, "Yeah, you got a lot of NFL stuff and you're a former player." And then he was like, "Hey, maybe you should do a live watch." And he started talking about stuff that I've already done. You know what I mean? Because he doesn't watch sports. But it was good to hear somebody from the outside looking in and kind of like your right off the cuff impressions. That's what I'm looking for. That's the kind of feedback I want to get because I want to be able to hook the person that normally wouldn't watch sports. You know what I'm saying? So, and the one thing he said was, if you do an NFL and NBA, what happens if you got somebody that don't like NBA? You're splitting your audience. Me, I'm thinking of, hey, I do sports. It's trending sports. So that works in my head. But if I look at the YouTube analytics, what if it doesn't work? So just stuff that I'm thinking about, man. So it's all good in the hood. But matter of fact, as soon as I get off the stream, I'm gonna look up Twitch and see what you can and can't do, and the benefits, the pluses and the minuses. Yeah, possibly. Because I look at it now, and this is the other thing that I got to look at the other side, because they're looking at it from one perspective. I'm looking at it from the standpoint of I was growing slowly but steadily when I did all Eagle stuff. The minute I started doing WNBA stuff, my viewership took off, which was weird because I'm former NFL player. Now I'm doing WNBA stuff. So do I try to find a way where they could both work on one channel, or does it make sense to just try to make a hoops channel because maybe I'll get more people that just want to watch WNBA stuff and that's it. Or they just want to watch WNBA, NBA, and that's it. They don't want basketball. They don't want football stuff. So different things that you can think about because they always tell you to concentrate on one niche. Sports, I'm thinking sports is the niche, but now you got an NFL niche. Now you got an NBA niche or a hoops niche. Different things to look at, man. So I'm doing my homework, man, before I make a decision. Because I'm putting out videos for NFL, WNBA. I've been doing this on the same channel and I've been having success. And I must be doing something right because I'm at 4,600 subscribers. Simply ball dropping. What's up, K-Sap? What's up, my dude? So yeah, man, this algorithm is a bitch. Just when you think you got it, you ain't got it. But I know what the goal is. The goal is to be able to, just the other night, I did a stream after I think it was game 4 of the WNBA Finals. And I did a live stream and I ended up with almost 400, 500 people on the stream. And I'm like, how do you do that? How can I do that consistently? That's what I'm talking about. That's where you got to get to because that's where you can build your audience, make a decent little chunk of change, and continue to grow. I still talk about to this day. I kick myself all the time because before the pandemic hit, I was always known as like the nerdy geek guy. I was that dude. Whenever we would go and have Eagles alumni events and stuff like that, I was the dude they would talk to because like, yo, what's the new phone look like? Blah, blah, blah. Because I worked at Apple. I was working at Apple at the time. I worked at Apple for 13 years. That's just, I'm into the culture. I'm into the technology. That's just the type of dude I am. So they would always ask me that questions. And I started a traditional podcast about 2 years before the pandemic hit. I would record my first episode. It's probably still online. My first episode was with Vince Papale, the guy that's the movie's based on. That Vince Papale, Invincible, with Donnie Wahlberg, and like played for the walk on for the Eagles. Ended up making the team. All that Vince Papale. He's a friend of mine. He's a cool dude. Eagles alumni. We always see each other. He used to come in the Apple store when I was there. But he was my first guest. And I'm saying that because I remember I called Mike Quick. And asked him for advice because he's a broadcaster for the Eagles game. So I was like, yo, how can I get better? What should I do? Blah, 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 blah. He was like, yo, just do it. Do it for a couple of times and you'll figure out what you like, what you don't like, what you need to work on, all of that kind of stuff. But I'm saying this because I started the traditional podcast. I did not want to do YouTube because I thought if I do YouTube, that means I got to edit stuff. And at the time I was working 2 gigs. I didn't have a lot of time and I didn't want to edit video. It never occurred to me. It's like, dude, why don't you just go live? That never occurred to me. So I started the Pro Fan podcast way back then. And in 3 years, like a year after the pandemic. Now, mind you, I was still working at Apple, but because of the pandemic, I was working from home. And then somebody saw me, got me on another podcast, and one thing led to another, and it got me to open my own channel. But I'm saying all that to say, I could have been doing this 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And I kicked myself because I'm burning it up now with my 4,600 subscribers. But where could I have been if I'd have been in year 5? If I'm in year 2, right now I'm in year 2 of officially being on YouTube, and I'm at 4,600 subs. Just imagine if I'd have been doing this 5 years ago. I'd have been over 50, 60, maybe 100,000 by now. So that's why I kicked myself. But it's all good. It's all good, K-Sap. We all here where we supposed to be. That's how I see it. Constantly growing, always grinding. Keep grinding. That's what I always say. Grow and grind. So, but yeah, Kev, check out the movie. Vince Papali's a good dude, man. I need to try to get him on the show one time. So, I'll tell you what I did find though. I found one of my old camcorders, and somehow some of my Eagles highlights are on that camcorder. I got to figure out how to get them off that mini cassette tape and onto the computer so I can keep it. So when I figure out how to do that, I'm gonna have a live stream and I'm gonna just run through some of my Eagles highlights. I don't have a lot of them. You know what? I don't like co-hosts because I can always collab with somebody, and we can just go. To me, a co-host is just a collaborator. Like me and K-Sap, you see K-Sap in the chat. Me and him been talking about getting together, doing some stuff. We just got to get the schedule right. But we gonna make it happen. So I come on K-Sap's go to Simply Ball Dropping, Edgar and Kev. He's always got it on the popping. Every time he goes live, I'm trying to pop in. I don't know if you guys have seen me and Tone DeShields. Tone DeShields used to work for Jacob Media. That's how we met. So now me and him have a weekly Eagles pregame show. If you've seen some of my shows, I'll go on with Barrett Brooks. I was trying to get Barrett this week, but Barrett does like a ACC game, like brought in the broadcast booth. So usually Friday through the weekend, he's busy. So I usually try to get him early. I just couldn't connect this week. So yeah, usually I get a lot of guys on that I collab with, and that ain't gonna stop because it's easier to talk to somebody than to talk by yourself. But I must admit, I have gotten pretty good at it, just running my mouth. So it's all good in the hood. But yeah, man, I'm always working. All of these graphics and stuff you see, I create, I animate, I produce, film, all this stuff. A lot, because this is what I do. Graphic design and multimedia is what I do for a living. So I love doing this stuff, man. So always trying to figure out a better way to do it, get my polish together. I'm always looking at ESPN. I'm like, how do they do that transition? I want to do that on my channel. All stuff like that, man. I'm a nerd, bro. K-Sap, I'm a nerd, dude, for sure. I am a big ass nerd. So don't let me find I've been trying to do this for a while. I haven't done this since I was like a little kid. I'm talking about like 8, 9 years old. Yeah, you talking about nerddom. I don't have the time for it, but I'm gonna try to find to get in like maybe one session. Because I watch. This is to let you know how much of a nerd I am. I watch like people play Dungeons and Dragons, and I would love to get in the Dungeons and Dragons game. But I know that's not a one-shot deal. That's like that stuff can go on for weeks, and I don't know if I got that much time. So Edgar, I like being by myself, man. Set my own hours, and there's enough good people out there and people that I've connected with at this particular point in time that I've been doing this, that if I want to get on and collab with somebody, I can do it like in a day or so. It wasn't like that before. I didn't know too many people, and I didn't trust other people. So I was very hesitant of that because I know sometimes that can go in different directions. So you got to be careful, especially at that particular time. I wasn't confident in what I was doing yet. So now I ain't got no problem. I know what to do, and more importantly, I know what not to do. So it's all good in the hood. But yeah, man. So yeah, that was a grown-up conversation about these WNBA finals. We ended up getting into football and some other stuff. But for the most part, man, let's put this puppy to bed with the WNBA finals. It wasn't the best. If you are somebody that consider yourself not going to watch the W next year because of how bad the finals look this year, then we don't need you. Good luck wherever you go. I enjoyed it. I can't wait for the college women's basketball to start. I'm probably going to watch mostly all women's basketball this year, just like I did for the last 2 seasons. And I have thoroughly enjoyed myself. Because the one good thing about the women, if you just watch the games, you'll get invested. It's that simple. It's that simple. I had no problem watching the men's on highlights. And the way things are now, I could always jump online, get on Xfinity, and I can watch a replay of any game. But I just fell in love with watching the women live all the way through the tournament. Last year was the first time in my life that I went through an entire college season. And I'm not a huge college basketball fan. I like college basketball. Went to Eastern Kentucky. University of Kentucky was right down the street. So it was ever present. So I am a college basketball fan, but I'm not a huge college basketball fan. Until the last 2 years, I got invested in the women's game. And then ultimately that ended up leading me to the WNBA. So, and I'm going to do the same thing. This will be the 3rd year. I'm going to exclusively watch women's basketball. If I want to watch men's, I will catch them on a highlight. I enjoy it. That's how I'm going to keep doing it. But let me see. We've been rocking and rolling for almost an hour and a half, hour 22. So it's been all good. So I'm gonna get up out of here, man. I think she is playing overseas. I think she is. I'm going to effort to see if I can get Kelsey Mitchell on my show. I'm going to try to get Kelsey Mitchell on. I know her mom. And I say I know her. If we ran into each other, we would acknowledge, give each other a hug, and talk about Big Mark. Because we all went to college together. Her dad, her mom, we all went to college together. I was in her parents' wedding. Imagine that. I was in her parents' wedding. We was in summer school. Cheryl's from Memphis. Mark was going down to get married. He asked me, my homie who was my roommate, and my frat brother. He was like, "What y'all doing this weekend? Come on down to Memphis. Y'all gonna be at my wedding." And we went down to Memphis. He bought us tuxes, and we were in his wedding. Crazy. And I'm saying all that to say, I'm gonna try to find a way to see if I can get in touch with Kelsey Mitchell so I can get her on the podcast. I love Kelsey Mitchell. In my opinion, she is almost as important as Caitlin Clark was to that team. So yeah, that might take a minute. I'm trying to get N'Kobe Dean on here. Because I'm to the point where I can like text N'Kobe Dean, he'll text me back. I just keep it simple, like good game, all that kind of stuff, man. But I'm gonna try to get N'Kobe Dean on here again. Last time I hooked up with N'Kobe was I went to Eagles practice. And before that, I saw him at his football camp here in South Jersey. So just making them connections, man. Slowly but surely. Slowly but surely. So I'm gonna get up out of here, man. I'm tired. I want to go to bed. So yeah, Dean had a good game. That was the Giants. That was probably Dean's best game as a pro. Probably his best game as a pro. So I know a lot of people think he struggles in coverage. And I say this all the time. Who doesn't? What linebackers don't struggle in coverage? Even Warner in San Francisco, as fast as he is, and here's how I make the difference. Here's where I draw the line. Linebackers can run, they can't cover. You can be a fast linebacker, but if a wide receiver or running back puts a move on you, you're beat. Because running backs aren't used to changing direction and opening up their hips like a defensive back. I'm sure there are some of them that are, but most of them, they can run, but covering is a whole different thing. So I know Dean needs to work on coverage a little bit, but I like Nakobe Dean because he's a hustle player. He makes plays where he shouldn't make plays. He makes tackles when he should make tackles. But because his hustle and he's got a motor, and it looks like they finally figured out that maybe you can use him better as a blitzer. So I'm expecting him to be on blitz watch a little bit more. I think he's got 4 sacks on the year. He should have had a pick 6 against Green Bay, but he dropped it. But I like Nakobe Dean. I like Nakobe Dean. And eventually, now with Zach Bond being hurt, we just might get a little bit of Jeremiah Trotter Jr. So we'll see. Yeah, that's my lament. There's no more fullbacks. I used to play fullback and halfback. I was a running back. So a fullback, this is how bad the offense was when I was with the Eagles. There was no fullback. You were either an A back or a B back. If you were the B back, that meant you lined up to tight end side. So technically you were a fullback because you lined up strong side, which meant regardless of who you were, if you were on the B side, you were the fullback. And if you're the fullback, that means you got to block the linebackers. And it's not fun blocking a linebacker when you only weigh 200 pounds. In 1993, I was losing the battle of physics. So, but all right, man, I'm running off at the mouths. Yeah. Now fullbacks are just tight ends, pretty much, or linebackers. So it is. So, but all right, man. Appreciate you, Joe. I had a small crowd tonight. I think I only got up to like 11, 12 people, but it's all good. So appreciate you, Kev. KSAP, if you're still in there, Edgar. Yeah, we're gonna do this again. I'm gonna be going again tomorrow because Thursdays is my night. Thursdays is supposed to be the night for Pro Fan Talk. So I will always be on live Thursday. So I'll probably be on tomorrow night at like 9:00. Or maybe I should go late. I should go late again until 10. I don't know. But you'll see my stuff on social medias and stuff. So all right, I'm gonna get up out of here, man. I'm gonna have some ice cream or something. Chill. I'm gonna go to bed. So I will see you all later. Appreciate the support. KSAP, hit me up on Twitter. Let me know what you want to do, if you want to do something Friday or if you want to try to schedule something for next week for sure. Definitely hit me up. Let me know what you're gonna do. And I will see you guys on the next one. Peace. Go Birds. I'm out.